My mom, Susie, her favorite cousins were her first cousins, Litzy and Teddy Finder. They were young people who got out early. They got out earlier before the Hertz family got out. They came to America. At the time, Teddy was a young guy, probably 8th or ninth grade. Later on, he gets drafted into the war. He had a beautiful accent, a beautiful Austrian accent, and since it sounded German, when he got into the US Army, they said, obviously, you grew up in Austria, you know all about German military tactics. Well, he knew nothing about military German tactics because he was just a kid, but what he would do is he would read at night at the library about German military tactics, and they thought he was marvelous. In fact, the colonel gave him the use of his own car. He couldn't do anything wrong. He was a private. He could not do anything wrong. When the war started in earnest and troops were going overseas, he wanted to go overseas. They said, no, you can't go overseas. You're way too valuable because you train people. So what happened into 1944, he finally gets permission to go overseas because they had a lot of loss of troops and he was a replacement troop. He goes over to seas and about 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks later, he is missing in action. He's severely wounded and he's left on the battlefield. He's behind enemy lines. Well, Teddy was a handsome guy. He was probably about 6'1". I've seen pictures of him. I knew him later on, you know, he was older. But he was severely hit in the legs and other parts of his body with shrapnel. He could not get off the battlefield. So he had the wherewithal to take his dog tags and to rip them off and hide them in the dirt, get rid of them. Because on an American tag, it has an H for it if you are Jewish, for Hebrew, because he knew he was going to be captured by the Germans. So when he was captured by the German troops, he said, I'm Teddy Finder, not a particularly Jewish name. I'm from Vienna. I went to visit my grandmother in America. And what happened was I got drafted. I didn't want to go to war. I got drafted. I was just a kid. Well, instead of going to a POW camp, he went to a German officers' military hospital, which happened to be deep underground at a U-boat facility somewhere on the coast. And for many months, the family had no knowledge of what happened to Teddy. He was missing. Then one day, when the Americans came through and liberated that area, he said, I'm Teddy Finder, a private in the US Army. And he basically got excellent care. Had he not been at the German hospital, he would never have survived the wounds he had because they were so severe. He went back to America. He married his American nurse and had a successful career as a furrier in Norfolk, Virginia, where I got to know him. A wonderful guy. He was beloved in his community. But it's a great story about a young man who had the wherewithal to survive by saying he was from Vienna. He left off the part that he was Jewish. Obviously, they didn't check for a circumcision, but he survived the war that way.